Hello everyone, my name is Pris from Prisperuses and welcome to another video. In today's video, we are gonna be wrapping up both January and February. You might want to take a drink and a snack because I do have 29 books to talk about. Right, in order to keep this video somewhat in proportion, I'm gonna be doing this relatively quickly. I will touch on my thoughts briefly and will give you my rating for them. I started the year off really great because I read the entire Greenbone Saga, and I can happily report that these are now one of my all-time favorite adult fantasies. This was absolutely spectacular. It was so good. We follow two gangs in an Asian-inspired world where Jade has like these magical powers, and some people who are called the Greenbows can wield magic, but then there is this drug that's being produced which can lead to people who do not actually have the abilities or do not train for it can also wield Jade, which leads to all type of dangerous situations. There is a lot of tensions going on between two clans, and I absolutely love this series. I was so shocked at Jade City. I did not cry at this, but I was properly shocked. I was like, what the hell is Vanda Lee doing? She does not mess around. Then I read Jade City and it was even worse. I cried my eyes out during this one. It was just so good but so emotional. And you know, I was so shocked and I honestly thought that it could not get any worse than this. But oh boy, was I wrong, because Jade Legacy ripped me into pieces, into literal pieces. I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. It was so good and it was so ballsy, and the ending was just perfect in every single way. And oh my gosh, this was such a roller coaster ride. But yeah, I can now happily report that this series is one of my absolute favorite adult fantasy series. And if you have not read this yet, I highly recommend that you pick this up. Then, because it was the Shareathon, which is a readathon based on the Wayward Children series, I read Across the Green Grass Fields by Shauna McGuire. I also read Where the Drowned Girls Go, and I both absolutely enjoyed it. I gave this one 4.5 stars, and Where the Drowned Girls Go I gave 5 stars. These books are so magical. They are absolutely amazing. I want to find my own door and leave this world behind and get into my perfect world, because it is so absolutely magical. And in this one, we follow Regan, which is a new character in a completely new world. And in Where the Drowned Girls Go, we follow Cora again, which is a returning character. And we get to see how the other school for wayward children is, which was really interesting. I think Where the Drowned Girls Go is now my favorite in the series, together with In an Absent Dream. Because that book really touched me and I identify with Cora so very much. But yeah, I am just so glad that I found the series and it's been absolutely amazing. Next up is Shadowcast by Thomas Taylor. This is a Malamander adventure. This is the third in the series. This is all about Violet together with Herbie. They get up to all sorts of trouble and it's just fantastic. There are these magical creatures alluring on Erie on Sea, and I just absolutely love this series. It's all that middle grade stands for. It's fun, it's whimsy, it's quirky, and it's just honestly a good ride. I gave this one 4 stars. Talking about good rides, Murder on the Safari Star. This was my favorite so far in the series. Oh my gosh, this was so good and so cleverly done. This series, I have talked about it already many times on my channel, but this is the Adventure on Train series, which is all about Hal, who goes on train rides, which is with his uncle Nath, and they both get themselves in a whole lot of trouble, but they always manage to save the day. And Hal is such a clever boy. Through his drawings, he always managed to find the culprit behind the shenanigans that are going on. But yeah, this was my favorite so far in the series, and I had a really great time. So I gave this one 5 stars. Next up is the Hat Makers. This was the middle grade monthly pick for January, and boy did I love this. When I finished this, I initially gave it 5 stars. Upon reflecting now, I think it is a 4 star, but I still really recommend. I just think I read it at exactly the right time. It was whimsical, it was quirky, and I had some really good laughs in this as well. This is all about Cordelia, who is a hat maker. She comes from a hat maker family. Her father goes missing. There is a war that is currently brooding. And yeah, from there all things will be revealed. And I really enjoyed myself. So yeah, initially 5 stars, but I think upon reflecting it will be a 4 star. But I seriously still recommend. Then I read Keeper of the Lost Cities for my own keeper along. This is the first book in the series that I read in January because I started a read along for this series. We are reading 1 book a month leading up to the next book coming out in November. This was a reread for me, and this was 5 stars. Is anyone surprised? No, we all know that I love this series. This is about Sophie, who is an elf. She's brought up by humans, but then one day is whisked away by a bull called Fitz, who is an elf, and who tells her that she is an elf as well. She's apparently the chosen one in this elfish world, and when she is whisked away, all things are going down and all is being revealed. I also read The Extraordinaries by V.E. Schwab, which is a graphic novel that takes place between the books Vicious and Vengeful. It was so good. The art style was really pretty, and I really enjoyed myself, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I also read Heartstopper Volume 4, which is a graphic novel series all about 2 boys that are falling in love with each other. It also deals with some pretty heavy topics. I personally do like the graphic novel series, but I'm not as big as a fan as anyone else seems to be. I think it can be quite repetitive sometimes, but it is a really good palate cleanser. And I really enjoyed myself whilst reading it. But I'm not the biggest fan of it. So therefore I gave this volume 3 stars. Those were the books for January. So now we are moving on to February. So for Vpodethon, I started off by reading this really cute comment that Steph lent me while I was there in England. It was Narwhal, and I was really cute. It was all about this Narwhal becoming friends with jellyfish, and they both thought that they were imaginary creatures, which was really cute, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. Then I finally read The Perfect Poo because Gavin made me, and Jade had a copy upstairs in her library. So I read it, and it was fucking weird, okay? Like, I know I talk about poop a lot, but this went way too far. I gave it 1 star because it was literal crap. I don't know what this author is doing. It's just fucking weird, okay? And I don't know, how can you make love with your poop? That's disgusting. And I'm not down for that at all. I think pooping can be very satisfying, but I will not put my poo in a box with a furry blanket, okay? I draw a line there. So, 1 star for the perfect poo. Then I read Froststar 3 and I really enjoyed it. Obviously, this is one of Gavin's absolute favorite series and he is so right. Like, oh my gosh, Ash is such a wholesome little hero. But yeah, this is about Ash and he is a song weaver, and that's not a very good thing because people tend to think that song weavers are being manipulated by the Leviathans and are a danger to their world. This was the last one in the series, and I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit emotional at the end. Because this is just so good, and Ash and the Frostheart crew are so amazing. And you really get the sense of found family, and I just enjoy that so much in book, and I really had an amazing time with this. So yeah, 5 stars for Frostheart 3. Next up is A Storm of Sisters by Michelle Harrison. This is the newest installment in the Withershin Sister series. And I absolutely love this series. This is all about Betty, Fliss, and Charlie who get themselves in all sorts of trouble. This time they're traveling to the wilderness, which is a really eerie, ghosty, icy town that has some history. I really enjoyed myself. I can read Michelle Harrison's book in 1 sitting. They are that good. And Charlie is just my everything, okay? I want a Charlie for myself. 5 stars for this one, no surprises there. Next up is The Bride and the Pale. This was a very weird book. It started off really good, then it got really boring, and the ending was spectacular. This is about a girl called Valeria. She finds out that her best friend is still alive, and she needs to go on an expedition with him and some other people to this really frosty, icy mountain to uncover some things. I was really bored most of the time with this book, but then the ending was really spectacular, so I kind of want to read the sequel, but I kind of don't. I'm giving this like a 2-3 star. I think it leans more to a 2 than a 3, but yeah. Unfortunately, most part of this book was just really boring. Next up, we have Nordic Tales. This book is absolutely beautiful. Like, I will show you some of the illustrations. Look at that. So pretty. This was my favorite book of all the books I read during Vpodethon. This was just so much fun. I had the audiobook as well, which really made me feel like somebody was reading some bedtime stories with me. It felt so cozy, and these stories were absolutely great. So yeah, highly recommend. And I had a really fantastic time with this. Similar is the Winter Tales. I picked this up while I was at Jade's, and I read it when I got home. This was also really beautiful. It has some great stories in it, and the illustrations are again absolutely magical. Look at that. That is so beautiful. Look at this. That is stunning. Had a great time with this. 5 stars all the way. Then I read The Republic of Birds. This was also really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was recommended to me by Jade. This was also gifted to me by Jade, I think. Oops. Yes, it was. Thank you, Jade. Yeah, this was really good. This is all about a girl called Olga. There is magic inside her, but also magic is forbidden in her world. There is currently a war brewing between her world and the Republic of Birds, and then her sister gets kidnapped and she needs to go to the Republic of Birds to go save her sister. Really good, really magical. I expected the birds were gonna be more present in this book, but nonetheless, I still really enjoyed this. Next up is Winterwood. Unfortunately, I didn't really vibe with this one. I didn't really care about the characters or the story. This is all about, I forgot her name already. What is her name? Nora. This is all about Nora. She finds a boy called Oliver in the woods, and then she needs to uncover what happened to him and what happened the night that he disappeared, and things get unraveled from there. But unfortunately, I couldn't get really into the story, and I thought this was more thrillery than fantasy. But yeah, unfortunately it was not really my cup of tea, and I ended up giving it 2 stars. Then we had my PJ party, in which I did a 24-hour live stream. I will link it down below. I will link the vlog of that down below as well, so you can check that out. But the entire stream is live on YouTube. Part 2 is particularly crazy. If you fancy that, go check it out. But yeah, for that I read 3 books that represent my besties, Steph, Jade, and Gavin. So I started off with I Heart New York for Steph. I started this and I really enjoyed it, but unfortunately it got downhill really fast. I thought this was quite a shallow story. This is about a girl that gets cheated on by her fiance, goes to New York, spends a whole lot of money, puts it on her credit cards, no repercussions whatsoever, let's just do that. Shags 2 guys and finds herself? I don't know. It was a little bit weird, not very realistic, because the way she made friends in this and finds a place to stay was like a really bit sketchy and convenient for the story as well. So yeah, unfortunately I did not get on with this and I ended up giving it 2 stars. Then I read The Fall of the Argosy by Sébastien de Castell. This was to represent Jade over Jade Ray Reads, obviously because it's Sébastien de Castell. I already read The Way of the Argosy. This is a Farius Parafex origin story. She's a character in the Spellslinger series. I thought this was really good. Every time I read about her, I want to become an Argosy myself. I think it's almost a type of religion that I just really vibe with. And I think it's spectacular the way they handle things, and they have their own paths and ways to go about life, and I really enjoyed this and gave it 4 stars. Next up is Amari and the Night Brothers. I cannot believe it took me so long to read this. This is one of Gavin's absolute favorite middle grades, and I read it during the PJ party. This was the last book I read during the PJ party, and thank God for it, because I think if it was any other book I wouldn't have paid attention because I was so tired, but this really grasped me from the very first page. This is all about Amari. Her brother goes missing, but then a mysterious suitcase ends up on her doorstep, and she is whisked away to this sort of underworld that fights supernatural beings, very Man in Blackish. I love this. This had trials in them, which I'm a sucker for. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. Then we had Camp BelieveaThon, which is a Patreon only readathon that Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin hosted for his Patreons. First book I read for that was Exile. This is the 2nd book in the Keeper of the Lost City series. No surprises, 5 stars. I love this series and I needed to read this for the Keeper along. So yeah, I've already told you what this is about. This is just a fantastic series, and every time I read this I get a huge smile on my face. These are very chunky books, but I can read them within a day because I just get so addictive. I've been listening to the audiobooks this time around, and they're also really good, and I really enjoyed myself. Next up is Danger at Dead Man's Pass. This is the 4th installment in the Adventures on Terrain series. This one was not my favorite. I gave it 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it, but this was the first one that didn't take place entirely on a train. Trains were still very important, but it took place most of it in this big mansion with this big family that had a lot of secrets for one another. Still really enjoyed it, but not my favorite. But this series I would recommend to anyone because it's just such a good time. Then I found a new favorite in Starfell. This was fantastic. This is one of my new absolute favorite middle grades, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the sequels. This is all about a girl called Willow. She is known for finding lost things in her magical world, but unfortunately in her world that's not very flashy or fancy. It's kind of a bit boring. Until last Tuesday goes missing and Willow needs to use her powers to save the world. It was an absolute amazing adventure. This is just everything that I love about middle grade. It has magical, whimsical vibes. It's an adventure. We have a really sassy animal sidekick. I loved him. He was amazing. It is nonsensical, but not too nonsensical. So I really fell in love with Willow as a character, and I cannot wait to read the sequels. Then we had Jade's Pokemon gym battle for the first gym. This is a part of Vpodethon, which is a Patreon-only readathon that Jade has created for her Patreons. And for that, I attempted to read the Black Prism, but unfortunately, I had to DNF this. This got really bad. In the beginning, I enjoyed myself quite a lot, but this got very sexist, and there was a lot of fat phobia in this, because I cannot remember, but I must have read over 100 times that the main character was fat. And it got really bad. I attempted to read this together with Jess. We buddy read it. And we got to page 300, 400 about that. And we said to each other, we're not vibing with this at all. And we felt really uncomfortable. So we decided to DNF it. So this was a DNF for me, and I will not continue the series. So instead of continuing the Black Prism, Jess and me picked up the extension trials. This was so good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was such a quick read. I think I read it like within 2 or 3 hours. It was so fast. This is about a world covered with dinosaurs. Humans and dinosaurs live next to each other, but the dinosaurs are really vicious. And there is not enough food or resources or space. They want to try and extinct the dinosaurs. And there are trials in this, which I'm a sucker for. So I really enjoyed myself. And I had a great time, and I will pick up the sequels from this series. Only 2 more books to go. We're nearly there, folks. We are nearly there. Next up is The House at the Edge of Magic. Unfortunately, I didn't really like this. This is about a girl called Nine. She is a thief. She's a member of a thief gang, but they don't treat her very well. Then she stumbles across this really quirky house. I did like the house, and it was very magical, but unfortunately I didn't get really on with the story. There was some found family in this, but other than that, I did not really enjoy it, and I couldn't really care about the story, so I gave this 2 stars. And then the last book of February was The Ice Whisperers. This was the pick for Middle Grade Monthly for February, and unfortunately, I did not vibe with this. And I was not very excited to pick this up in the first place, because I already heard some people that I do know and trust not really liking this. So I don't know if I give it enough of a chance. But yeah, I listened to the audiobook, but I couldn't really pay attention to it because I just didn't really care. This is about 2 sisters. One is uncovering some secrets about her parents, and then she falls into this other world, this icy world, and she finds out that she has a half-sister. I did like the sisterly bond and how it progressed over the story, because at the beginning they really didn't like each other and they were very different from one another. But how the sisterly bond progressed, I did like that. But unfortunately, that was it, and I ended up giving it 2 stars. Those are all the books I read in January and February. I'm not picking them up because I will fucking die. Can you see this gigantic stack? Those are the books I read in January and February. I'm not picking them up, guys. That was it for today. Those were all the books I read in January and February. Let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books. What were your thoughts? What were your favorite books of both January and February? I would love to know. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. But yeah, I'm gonna leave you for now, and I hopefully will see you soon with another video. Bye!